back to another video. Today I'm going to be telling you about a flight I took exactly a month ago, almost, on board Air Canada's Boeing 787-8. So I took this flight from Budapest to Toronto, and it was actually quite enjoyable. So in this video I'm going to be walking you guys through the whole journey, so yeah, enjoy. Now, this journey started where most flights start, and that is the terminal of the airport. I arrived around 8:30 in the morning to Budapest International Airport's Terminal 2A for my 11:30 flight, and I was greeted by this quite spacious entrance to the airport. I do like Budapest Airport as it's a quite nice and spacious airport with a lot of great views of planes, and that you'll see later. So my flight today will be at a B gate over here in, like I said, the very spacious terminal with very big windows. It's laid out, there's a big bottom floor and kind of a ring on top on 3 sides with restaurants. Now, I got to see this really cool Hainan Airlines 787 in a special livery, which is really cool. And then, of course, the classic Ryanair experience, boarding really crowded on those stairs. But yeah, the Hainan was a really cool catch. And then from there, upstairs, got some nice shots, and I again saw some pretty cool planes from there. Now, from the terminal, you can't really see the runways too well, but you can see very good the taxiing. And today, it was really crowded at the airport, and there would be a really huge line to get to the gates later. I also saw this Qatar Cargo 777-200 freighter. Another really cool catch. Sadly, the pillars of the windows kind of got in the way, but I feel like they need those for structural integrity. Anyways, going through duty free and then heading over to my gate. I'm going to be heading toward the B9 to B30 gates, and just walking that way, I saw some more planes out the window, just heading toward the gate. And now at the gate, there was this other Air China 787. I think this was a -9, although it may have been a -8. And you can kind of see the tail of my Air Canada 787 in the background. Now, speaking of my Air Canada 787, it's registered as Charlie Golf Hotel Papa Tango with a fin of 802. That's the plane we're going to be taking today. And I'm seated on the left side, kind of right in front of the wing. So a couple more really nice looking shots of the plane, which is the older Air Canada livery. I like to call it toothpaste livery. And I do prefer it to the newer livery, especially definitely on the 787s. It is nicer. So now, boarding our aircraft, something you don't notice is a little bit of blue around the red on the Air Canada logo. It's quite interesting. So after boarding and seeing the galley, I took an immediate right to my seat 19 Alpha. As you can see, it has quite a good view out the window and a Shanghai Airlines 787. So gate, jet bridge moving away, and we're ready for pushback and departure out of Budapest International. Pushing back, we have another really good view of the Shanghai Airlines 787, and then continuing to push back. 787's winglets really do look quite interesting when the plane is on the ground. And another thing on the 787 is, of course, the huge windows. So I had a really good view, and I also saw a Lufthansa Technik hangar, which was fun because I've never seen, I think, Lufthansa Technik in front of my plane. There was a Ryanair 737 and a Airbus A330 freighter, which is something you don't really see much because it was not really a popular aeroplane. So let's taxi toward the runway. And turning on now, we're gonna have another good view of the Lufthansa Technik hangar as we're departing. I'm just gonna let the takeoff play, and then I will continue the commentary after the takeoff and departure. That we're nicely up in the air, about to reach our initial cruise altitude of 36,000 feet. We're gonna get all the way up to 40,000 later in the flight. But yeah, time to settle in, turn the window brightness slightly down. One thing on the 787 is there are no window shades, just a little toggle for the window brightness. And I like to keep mine set at about halfway. That way you can see outside, but it's still not too bright. So settling in, everything looks nice, cruising above the clouds, looking out the 787's huge windows. Like, I do not have very small hands. Those windows are really big. So, well, after that I headed to the bathroom, from which I had a really good view of the L3, I believe, exit of the rear of the wing of the 787, which has an insane flex. So now, headed back to my seat, as you can see here. And now we're almost over Greenland, but still cruising over the North Atlantic Ocean. Then now, over Greenland, I got some really good views of some beautiful mountains, as you can see there. And that was really a fun thing to see. Those mountains, they definitely were in Greenland. I did not know Greenland had mountains like that. Now, Air Canada's in-flight map is also quite nice. It has this view, a couple others, and a view that I really like is not this one actually, even though this is cool, but this one. It's a cockpit kind of POV that's much more fun when the aircraft is descending, because you know it has live telemetry of the descent. But still, for now, we're quite far from descending, still at cruise altitude. Not particularly exciting at this point, but now serving us some light breakfast or lunch probably. It's this curry pastry thing, not quite sure exactly what it's called, but I mean, that's what it looks like. It was okay, honestly. I'd rate probably about 6 out of 10, maybe 5. And continuing on to the cruise, finally it's time to start descending. So we're lowering through the clouds now, probably around flight level 310, and then skip a little bit forward in the descent, getting lower and lower, and of course closer and closer to our destination of Toronto Pearson. Continuing on the descent, nice pictures or clips of the engine and the 787's wing flex. Now we started heading more south in a turn towards runway 24 right at Toronto Pearson, which is going to be our landing runway today. If you did not know, runway 24 right is the western facing runway, one of the 3 western facing runways actually, at Toronto Pearson Airport. So now, even closer to the ground in the airport, starting to see downtown Toronto coming in, and even more of downtown Toronto. This is probably, though, not exactly central Toronto. So continue even more. You can see a tiny bit of the United 737 coming in. So now, final descent. We're getting really low now and about to land. So again, I'm just gonna let the landing play out, and then I'll continue the commentary again after the landing. Now that we're on the ground, you can see I actually made a minor mistake, and that is actually that we did not land on runway 24 right. In fact, we landed on runway 24 left because, as you can see, after slowing down to a decent taxi speed, because we're not Southwest Airlines, we crossed runway 24 right, which is exactly parallel to runway 24 left, and they are quite close together, so there's definitely no parallel landings on this one. So we continued taxiing to our gate, which today I'm pretty sure is going to be gate E77, or Echo 77, which is a gate, one of the most southern gates actually, at Toronto Pearson Airport, and is situated in Terminal 1. So let's start heading directly to the gate now. I think we are nearly there, just approaching our parking spot. And honestly, it was a pretty smooth flight. I don't think we had any turbulence at all. Really fun approach, really fun departure. Honestly, a little bit long for my taste. I definitely think I prefer shorter flights to 9-hour long haul flights, just because they're a bit more fun. Now, it was definitely the most fun part of the flight. I actually got to see the cockpit, which was so cool to see, and just like an amazing experience. Everything was still turned on. I got to see all the instruments. But then out of the plane onto the jet bridge, I got one final really great view of the plane before heading toward the exit. And you can see this is the terminal. This is actually the terminal that I left from on my trip that was nearly 6 weeks long. So this really was a fun experience as like the closing of the loop kind of. So we headed closer and closer to the exit. I saw a couple of more narrow body airplanes over here, and I've actually never flown any of these types. And then let's head toward our baggage belt. Today we're going to be at baggage belt number 5, which is, as you can see, a little bit farther down there. Now, 3 flights are at this baggage belt, one from Paris Charles de Gaulle, ours from Budapest, and then one more flight. So after we got the baggage, it's time to go out the exit of the airport, and towards the taxis, again, out this really nice entrance to the airport, or exit, as you can see. But yeah, it was a really fun trip that I quite enjoyed, and I hope I'm going to be on a plane hopefully soon. So, I mean, honestly, I really enjoyed the trip. Like, from the terminal of Budapest all the way to the air, and then from the air to the 787's beautifully modern cockpit, and all the way out the door of the airport. I really enjoyed this flight. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you appreciate what I do here and want to help the channel, a like and subscribe are much appreciated. Okay, bye guys.